Hey, what's up? Today we're going to learn some equation word problems, okay? So this says directions. Define a variable, then write and solve an equation for each situation below. All right, so let's get to it. It says Chip earns a base salary of $500 per month as a salesman. So that sounds important, $500 per month. In addition to his salary, he earns $90 per product that he sells. If his goal is to earn $5,000 per month, how many products does he need to sell? All right, so what I have to do here is I got to figure out what of these numbers are going to go with my variable. One of these numbers is going to be my coefficient, right? Okay, so it says they wanted him to get $5,000 in 1 month. All right, so since it's 1 month, I know he wants it to equal $5,000, right? So I know that's going to be at the end. So we know it's going to equal $5,000. That's how much he wants to earn in 1 month. We also know that he gets paid $500 per month, right? So we know he gets paid $500 per month. And since we're just doing 1 month, I don't need a variable there because we're looking for it for 1 month, right? But then he also earns $90 per product he sells. This right here, this per product he sells is my variable. I don't know how many products he needs to sell to get to $5,000. So to get to my $5,000, I'm going to take my base salary of $500 and I'm going to add 90, all right, and then X. That's my variable, where I can use P for products, whatever you want to use, right? So I get my $500 base plus $90 for every item that I sell, and I want it to equal $5,000. That's how much I want to make per month. Okay, so now we set up our equation. All right, now we can go ahead and solve this, right? We can solve this and solve for X and figure out how many products you need to sell. So my whole goal right now is to get X by itself, right? So I'm going to do minus 500 to get rid of it on this side, and then minus 500 to get rid of it on this side. 5,000 minus 500 would be 4,500, right? And then on my left side here, I'm left with this 90x. Well, how do I get x by itself? I would have to divide by 90. So if I divide by 90, I cross those out, divide this side by 90, and 4,500 divided by 90, 45 divided by 9 is 5, and then I can cross off my zeros. I have 1 0 left over, so he needs to sell 50 products. So he needs to sell 50 products. So x equals 50. Sometimes you might have to write this in a statement, right? So you can say Chip, that was his name, needs to sell 50 products. Boom. All right. So there we go. All right. So when you solve these, you have to figure out where your variable is going to go, and then you set up your equation and go ahead and solve your equation. Okay. All right. So let's do number 2. A pizza shop charges $9 for a large cheese pizza. $9 for a large cheese pizza. Toppings cost $1.25 per topping. It says Heather paid $15.25. How many toppings did she order? Okay, so what's going to go with my variable? What's my unknown here? Well, I know $9 for a large pizza, and I know she paid $15.25, right? So my variable is going to go with my toppings here, right? I don't know how many toppings she ordered. And that says it right here. How many toppings did she order? So that's where my variable is going to go, right? Okay, so I know that they charge $9 for a large pizza, and then plus $1.25 per topping. So that's going to be with my X, right? And then it's going to equal $15.25. So then once I solve this, I will go through it and figure out how many toppings she had. I'm not going to do this one. I want you to do it. You can do this two-step, right? Get rid of your constant first, and then get rid of the coefficient. Get rid of the thing furthest away from the x, and then get rid of the thing with the x, right? Okay, so go ahead and solve that one, and when you're done, go to the next. All right, number 3, it says your test scores for this semester are 87, 84, and 85. Can you raise your test average to a 90 with your next test? Ooh, okay, so grade averages. All right, so first we have to talk about averaging. So when you average something or find the average of something or find the mean of something, sometimes you might hear it called mean, M-E-A-N, right? What you have to do is you add up all your numbers and you divide by how many numbers you added up by, right? So let's see, we had an 87, an 84, and an 85. You want your grade to be a 90, right? So we want our grade to equal 90. We want our grade to equal 90. And we want to do it on our next test. So we already had 3 tests. We're going to have 1 more test, right? So let's set this up. So this would be 87 plus 84 plus 85, because those are the 3 tests that we've had so far, right? And then it would be plus x, because I don't know my next test. My next test hasn't happened yet. That's an unknown value, right? And then for it to equal 90, to find an average, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 things we're adding here, right? So we're going to have to divide it by 4. Okay? All right, so let's think about how we can solve this one, because this one's a little bit different than the others. All right, so if I was going to solve this, what I would do first is I would get rid of this big fraction. And I see that a big fraction means you're dividing, right? So I would times this by 4 to get rid of my fraction. And I would times this side by 4. And 90 times 4 is 360. Okay, so what's left over here? Well, I have a bunch of numbers and I have x. So basically I can combine my like terms, right, on this side of my equal sign. I can do 87 plus 84 plus 85. I can't do that in my head, so I'm going to type in my calculator. 87 plus 84 plus 85 gives me 256. So I have 256. And I still have this plus x, right? So I'm going to write that down, plus x. So now I need to solve for x. Now I need to solve for x, right? I want to get x by itself. I see this as a positive 256, so I'm going to do a minus 256 to get rid of it on this side. And I'm going to do a minus 256 to move it over here to keep my equation balanced. On my left side, I'm left with x. And on my right side, I got a 360 minus a 256, and that gives me 104. 104. All right, so is this possible? Can I get 104? So let's think about it. It says, can you raise your test average to a 90 with your next test? The answer would be no. You cannot. No, because the most you can get on a test is 100%. If you get every single question right, that is 100%, right? You can't get 104% unless there was extra credit, right? But there's no extra credit. They didn't say there was any extra credit or anything like that. If it was just a normal test, it would be no, you can't raise it up to a 90 because it's not possible to get 104%. Okay, let's try the next one here. It says you spend half of your allowance each week on school lunches. Each lunch costs $1.25. How much is your weekly allowance? So we're looking for our weekly allowance, right? So our weekly allowance, we're trying to figure that out. So if each lunch costs $1.25, how many school days are in a week? Well, there's 5 school days, right? There's 5 school days. So I know I have to do 5 times this 125 because I'm looking for my weekly allowance, right? So I'm going to have to do 5 times, I'm going to put in parentheses, $1.25, right? I need to figure out what that is first. So 5 times $1.25 would be $6.25. All right. So for the week, you spend $6.25. So we know that half of that is our weekly allowance. So we don't know our weekly allowance. That is our x. Our weekly allowance is our x. That's our variable. So we know that half of our allowance, so half of x, is going to equal $6.25. $6.25. So how do I solve this? Well, I have a fraction as my coefficient, so to get rid of that, I have to times it by the reciprocal, right? So I'm going to times it by 2 over 1, which is the same thing as just timesing it by 2, because 2 over 1 is the same as 2. So if I do 6.25 times 2, that's going to tell me my weekly allowance. And my weekly allowance is $12.50. $12.50. My weekly allowance is $12.50. So we had to figure out, and this one was kind of more multi-step. We had to figure out how much we spent on lunch for the week, and then we knew that that was half of our allowance, right? And we didn't know our allowance, and then we solved and figured out our allowance. Let's do one more. All right, let's skip to number 7. It's going to be on the back of your page, or maybe on the second page, but let's go to number 7. Let's go to number 7, because that one's a little different than all of the other ones we've done so far, okay? So it says a rectangular pool is twice as long as it is wide. So what helps me with this, when they give me a shape or something like that, I like to draw a picture. That helps me. So it says it's twice as long as it is wide. So let's say this is my width, right? And then this is my length. So if it's twice as long as it is wide, That means my length is twice my width, right? So I have my width and I have twice my width. Okay, so then I want to find the perimeter. The perimeter is 42 yards. All right, so if you think of perimeter of a rectangle is twice the length plus twice the width, right? So we know the perimeter equals 42, right? And 2L, well, we know my L, we said the pool is twice as long as it is wide, right? So it's twice the width. So for L, I'm going to plug in 2W. All right? And then for W, I'm just going to leave that the same, 2W. That's my width. My width's going to stay the same. All right, so now I got to solve this. So if I was going to solve this, I see multiplication here. I got to do this 2 times this 2W. Well, that's going to give me 4W. All right? So then I have 4W plus 2W. That's going to give me 6W. So I'm left with 42 equals 6W. So to get W by itself, I'm going to have to divide by 6, right? Divide by 6, divide by 6. And 42 divided by 6 is 7, right? So W equals 7. So it asks, what are the dimensions? So the dimensions means it needs the length and the width, right? It needs the length and the width. So we know the width. So we know the width is 7 yards. I got yards because it told me it was in 42 yards was the total perimeter, right? So I know my width is 7 yards. So then what would my length be? Well, my length would be 2 times that, right? Because it's twice the width. So my length would be 2 times that, and 2 times 7 is 14. So my length would be 14. So we figured it out. We got the width of 7 and our length is 14 yards, and that is my dimensions. Sometimes you could write this as like 7 by 14 too, something like that. That's sometimes you'll see dimensions written like that. If you're buying something like you're buying a table, and it will tell you like how the length and the width of the table. They usually say like 7 feet by 10 feet. You know what I mean? Something like that. All right. But that is how we would solve that. Okay, so that's a good intro to practical problems and word problems that you could see. All right, we did not do number 5, number 6, 8, or 9. What I want you to do is try those on your own. When you're done, ask a teacher to check it, and they'll let you know how you did. All right? Anyways, I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.